Hey y'all, happy Sunday once again and welcome back to my channel. I'm back in the kitchen today and I'm going to be sharing with you a traditional South Indian dish called curd rice. This recipe was actually taught to me by my boss, who herself is from South India, and this is something that she grew up eating every day. And one day at work, she was having some curd rice and I asked her what it was. I said, that smells really good. And she was describing what it was, and she was saying that it was a dish in India, in South India, that's commonly eaten after a meal, particularly a very spicy meal. It's thought to be a digestive, and she also mentioned that this curd rice has a lot of medicinal properties, and I was curious about that. So I asked her what those were, and she said that curd rice is something that's recommended for women who struggle with PMS and menstrual cramps. It's also something that is fed to women who are in the first 40 days after childbirth. So it really got me thinking, wow, I wonder what's going on with this dish that gives it so many healing properties. So she showed me how to make it, and then I went home and did it myself, came back to work, had it for lunch, and she walked over and said, that smells right. So that made me feel good. Then she had a taste test, and she smiled and nodded her head. And I took that as, this is good. And she said that it tasted like it should and gave me a pat on the back. So I felt confident enough now to share it with you all that I have the approval of a true South Indian woman. I feel that I can now demonstrate this recipe with confidence. And it's very simple. As long as you have the ingredients that I'm gonna be showing you today. It's very similar to the egg drop soup recipe that I did last week, in which it's very simple and it's not time consuming at all, and yet it's full of nutrients. So come journey with me and let's make this curd rice. Here is our first ingredient, basmati rice. I think a lot of us are under the impression that rice is really just a carb empty of a lot of nutritional value, and this is simply not true. Rice, specifically basmati rice, is very mineral rich. It's full of what we call trace minerals. Trace minerals are very important for electrolyte balance in our bodies, which directly affects our kidney health and our cardiovascular health. One of the trace minerals that basmati rice is highest in is manganese. Manganese has tons of antioxidant properties, and studies show that manganese in combination with calcium actually can help relieve PMS symptoms. So this sort of had a light bulb go off in my head, and going back to what my boss had mentioned about this being a dish used to treat PMS. So there's the science behind that. Selenium is another trace mineral that we find in basmati rice. It's an important mineral that has to do with our immune health, fertility, thyroid function, and it's also a powerful antioxidant. Copper is also found in abundance in basmati rice. It's antibacterial, antiviral, and anti-inflammatory. Phosphorus is another trace mineral, which is a hormone regulator, and it controls kidney and digestive health as well. So all of this is found in just plain basmati rice. There is much more than meets the eye with basmati rice. The next ingredient up to bat is yogurt, which is the curd of the curd rice. Yogurt is definitely a superfood. It's loaded with probiotics, which are great for our gut flora and the microbiome in our bodies. Yogurt is also naturally rich in calcium, which is great for bone health, but in this case, it also connects back with the manganese that we find in the basmati rice. They work synergistically together to help with hormone regulation, which is why I think it does help with PMS symptoms as well as the healing during the postpartum period. Yogurt is also naturally loaded with great saturated fat. It's a healthy fat, And in fact, it helps increase good cholesterol in our body, which is also known as HDL cholesterol. Yogurt is also a great source of protein. Protein is what gives our body energy. It helps us with hormone regulation, and specifically it deals with the hormones that tell our bodies when we're full. Now for this recipe, the type of yogurt that you use matters a lot. One word of warning, do not use Greek yogurt. I repeat, do not use Greek yogurt. It will come out a sticky, disgusting mess. The best type of yogurt to use for curd rice is European style. So this type of yogurt is more runny. It's not as thick as we find, let's say, in Greek yogurt, so the runnier the better. I like this brand. I like Strauss. The whole milk European style is my personal go-to when making curd rice. The next ingredient for our curd rice today is black mustard seeds. So right away, take a look at that color. They're pretty dark, and there is a lot of variation. I can almost see some purples, some reds. A lot of foods that we find that are dark or rich in color, this is often a huge green flag that it is very high in antioxidants. So the antioxidant that mustard seeds are the most high in is vitamin E, which is really important for our immune health as well as our skin and eye health. Another thing that is found in abundance in black mustard seeds is the B complex vitamins. Now these vitamins include folate, niacin, thiamine, and riboflavin. All of these are important for overall health, such as energy levels, our brain function, but a lot of these properties are unique to women who are either in the early stages of pregnancy or in the preconception stages. You're planning on becoming pregnant. So the B complex vitamins are super important when it comes to fetal development. So if that applies to you, make sure you get some black mustard seeds in your diet, maybe even from this delicious curd rice. Black mustard seeds are also really high in minerals, similar to the minerals that we found in the basmati rice. For this recipe, you're gonna need a half tablespoon. So for our curd rice, we are also going to need curry leaves. I used to think of curry leaves as something spicy, as something flavorful, and that's kind of where it ended. Well, that's not where it ends. Curry leaves are actually super nutrient dense, and they are a great all-purpose healer. I'm gonna tell you why. First off, curry leaves are rich in iron and folic acid. What's cool about this is iron and folic acid actually have a symbiotic relationship, very similar to the manganese and calcium relationship. So the folic acid actually helps our body to properly transport and absorb iron. So even if you're eating a bunch of iron-rich foods, if your body is not properly transporting and absorbing that iron, you're gonna be on a fast track to anemia. So curry leaves are a great thing to add to your diet if you're trying to improve blood health or treat anemia. Curry leaves are also really high in calcium, so they're great for bone health. They have been found to have anti-cancer properties and immune boosting properties. Curry leaves are also thought to be detoxifying and a blood sugar regulator, which is awesome if you have blood sugar issues like me. And I'm all about that spice, and they do have some spice. This is gonna be a bit of a spicy dish. It comes from India. So you do need them. Here I've got 3. You can use 2 or 3. These are dried curry leaves. Preferably you'd like to use fresh ones, but that's kind of hard to come by in this neck of the woods. So I've got some dried ones here to use today. Traditionally in curd rice, you would be using gingerly oil, which is sesame seed oil, but the way that it's extracted is a little bit different than what we're used to in the States. So it's a gentler extraction technique, so more of the nutrients remain in the oil, such as zinc, calcium, and magnesium. Today, I do not have gingerly oil because it is still en route to my house from India. And I don't have plain sesame oil either. So if that happens to you, you can use avocado oil, which is what I'm actually using today. So it's a very good substitute in this dish. And it's high in vitamin A, D, and E. It's got a high smoke point, but it's not refined. So it's kind of an exception to the rule. And that's what I'm gonna be using today to make the curd rice. So if you do want to add a little extra heat to this dish, I always like to because I love spicy food, but it's not required. You can thinly slice a chili pepper as well to add to this dish. But once again, this is totally optional. It's only for those of us who love spice country. All right, let's get this cooking party started. So what I'm gonna be demonstrating to you guys today is a single serving of curd rice. Generally, what would happen in India is at the end of the day, you would probably have a bunch of leftover basmati rice since it's made in such large quantities, as well as yogurt, which is a main staple in India. So at the end of the day, you would take your yogurt and your rice and a little bit of salt and you'd mix it all together, and that would help preserve it for the next day to make yogurt rice. So as you can see, I didn't let mine soak overnight, although sometimes I do. So first what we're gonna do is sprinkle a little bit of salt. I'm using some Himalayan pink salt, which is high in trace minerals, which is kind of a part of the theme, I suppose. Trace minerals seem to be the theme in curd rice. So once you have the salt mixed in, it's time to put in the yogurt. So there's not an exact amount that you're putting in. It's one of those things that my boss told me it has to look right. You just know. So dump in your yogurt and start to mix it. So I like to do a little bit at a time so that I'm not like overly dumping, because you can always put more in, but you cannot take yogurt out. So I'm just mixing this in to see if we're getting to the right consistency. And I think it needs a little bit more yogurt, tiny bit. Because you don't want it to be overly runny, but you don't want it to be too sticky and dry either. I'd almost relate it to how you would want oatmeal to look. You want that same consistency, like you want it soft and lumpy, but you don't want it overly runny and just like a soup. You're wanting to think of this as like a porridge. So your rice should look like this. So once you have your rice, salt, and yogurt mixture prepared, set it aside, and we're gonna work on the frying portion of this recipe. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your oil and pour it in a pan about yay big. A little word of safety on this dish, something that my boss warned me about. Little backstory here. My boss was telling me in India, if you look closely, you'll notice a lot of little tiny, almost like chicken pox, like scars near women's eyes. And she was like, it comes from this oil. So any of you who have done any kind of frying with oil, you know there's always that kind of danger that oil can spit and pop. It can burn your skin. It can burn your eyes. So please exercise caution, because part of this recipe means getting it kind of to that bubbling point. So once it does, it's good to either be wearing safety goggles or to back away from the stove. So you just want enough oil to really coat the pan, as you can see. So I'm gonna turn up the heat to medium high, and I'm gonna let that heat up. Once your oil starts to heat up, you are gonna add in your black mustard seeds. You are also gonna add in your curry leaves. And then if you are so inclined, like I am, you can add in your sliced chili peppers as well. So So I can feel it starting to get hot, but I don't see any bubbles forming yet on the pan. That's what I'm waiting for. Once I start to see tiny little bubbles starting to form, that's the right moment where I'm gonna put on my ingredients. And once they're on, it's gonna be a very quick fry. You're not gonna leave it on too long. This is a very easy thing to burn, so it's all about brevity and having it at the right temperature. All right, folks, my oil is nice and hot. I've had a couple little tiny bubbles come up. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in black mustard seeds. Look at the bubbles. The curry leaves. And then comes my chili peppers. Time to stand back. As you can see, it really starts going, so you don't wanna be too close. Yum, yum, yum. Yeah, so you just want it to sizzle for maybe like, whoop, something just popped out. Ah! Maybe like 45 seconds. I wouldn't let it go that much longer, past 45 seconds or a minute, or else it will burn. So I would aim for this to be around a 30 or 45 second fry. So once it stopped cooking, you still want it to be relatively sort of hot when you're adding this in. Once again, be careful that you don't burn yourself, because it is still going to be actively cooking a little bit. And then quickly you're going to take your spoon and you're going to want to mix. Get those leaves and the peppers nice and crunched. This is a dish you really want to make sure that you mix it very well so that the spices and flavor distribute evenly. And et voila, we have ourselves some delicious and nutritious yogurt rice. So let's go over and recap some of the key nutritional and health benefits that curd rice has to offer. Curd rice is high in antioxidants. It's also high in minerals. This dish is naturally anti-inflammatory and good for gut health. The nutrients found in curd rice help with hormone and energy regulation, as well as immune system support. Well, that's all that I have for today in this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you are feeling the vibe, please subscribe. Next week, I'm gonna be back making congee, which is a traditional Chinese rice dish. So I hope to see you there. Light and love, everybody.